Hello, and welcome to today's webcast, InsightCloud Care and Cloud Economics. My name is Blair Loveland. I am your Microsoft Readiness Specialist at Insight, and I will also be your moderator for today. Before we begin, I do want to cover a couple of housekeeping items. This webcast is designed to be interactive between you and the presenters. The webcast console you're looking at can be completely customized. You can resize or move any of the windows around that you have open. If you have any questions during the webcast, you can click on the Q&A widget at the bottom and submit your question. All questions from this webcast will be captured, and there will be a Q&A during the last few minutes of the presentation. If you're experiencing any technical difficulties, please visit the webcast help guide by clicking on the question mark below the presentation window. The help guide covers common technical issues. I would now like to turn this presentation over to our presenters, Elliot Bratz and Bob Agno. Elliot, the floor is yours.
Great. Thanks, Blair. Good morning or afternoon, everyone that's joining. Thank you very much for taking the time to learn a little bit more about the Insight Microsoft practice, Azure, and cloud economics. It's kind of a very broad, sweeping conversation that Bob and I are going to try to frame for us today and put us in a situation where you're walking away from this call with a clear idea of how Insight can help you moving forward with your, what I would call cloud optimization or your approach to cloud optimization. That said, just a quick introduction. My name is Elliot Bratz. I'm responsible for the Microsoft Commercial Business Unit at Insight. And along with me is Bob Agno. Bob, do you want to do a real quick intro?
Sure, Elliot. Good afternoon, everyone. Again, this is Bob Agno, and I run our cloud economics and software asset management practice here at Insight.
Great. So, really quick, what I'd like to do is just frame a little bit in terms of our Microsoft practice at Insight, give you a sense we're just a very large organization with all the resources that we have, just to give you a sense for where we're coming from every day with our customers and how we're helping them with their Microsoft investments. And, usually I like to start there. Whenever I'm speaking to a customer relative to Insight and our Microsoft practice, I like talking about how we help our customers get the best return on their Microsoft investment. And I say that because, in any given day, we're working with thousands of clients, helping them acquire, implement, and manage Microsoft technologies. And I'm usually pretty particular about those three facets because, in truth, Insight really helps our customers with all three of those cornerstones of that Microsoft experience. How to acquire the technology in a thoughtful, pragmatic way, how do you implement that technology from a best practices perspective, and then how you manage it moving forward in a way that you're continuing to get the best value from that experience. Not every partner is equal, and Insight has the benefit of decades of experience, being a very large organization. For most of you on this call, you may know that Insight is a global organization spanning both North America, EMEA, as well as APAC, with over 11,000 employees, and that as an organization, we are very much focused on our Microsoft relationship. It is our longest, most important strategic relationship, and a lot of the testament to that support can be found in a number of awards throughout the years relative to our competencies within all three of our solution areas, whether that's digital innovation or connected workforce or our data center practice. All that said, today what we're talking about is working with our customers from a cloud perspective. And the team that I represent, the Microsoft commercial team, is very, very focused on working with our customers as they approach the Microsoft public cloud. In that regard, of course, I'm talking about Azure. Of course, I'm also talking about 365. But this team comprised of over 100 individuals providing both sales support, technical support, ongoing managed support relative to 365 and Azure is completely comprised of frames to make sure that, as from an experience perspective, you're getting the best return on that experience. And that, of course, will include what we would call optimization or cost optimization. The team, and this is just, I will spend 2 seconds here, is comprised, like I said before, with a number of different roles, starting with your Microsoft account manager all the way through from a full full experience perspective from the licensing expertise to the Microsoft solution consultants that are helping our customers architect and deliver Azure and 365 experiences, all the way through to individuals that we call cloud success managers. And these are folks that work with our customers every day to make sure that, they're approaching Azure from a best practices perspective. And really that's what we're talking about here. So, what I'd like to do now is really just kind of quickly segue into what I would call an economic cloud conversation. And from there, I will hand it off to Bob, who will talk a bit about the practice of cloud economics. So really, this story, cloud economics or cloud optimization, starts, with a couple of data points that we have found to be, really noteworthy. The first is that we have the reality that the public cloud continues to grow. And that is a reality today, even in the COVID era. So in the COVID era, public cloud is continuing to be accessed and leveraged by a number of organizations as they move their on-premise data centers into a public cloud environment and use that for remote distributed organizations. We continue to see that. One of the things that we also see every day and hear, and we've heard this in Gartner for a while now, and in truth, we really don't need our customers, and we don't need Gartner to tell us this, I hear this from our customers pretty much every day, is that there's a lot of wasted spend tied to the cloud. And, when we talk about wasted spend, it really, we find that it comes from a handful of moments or scenarios. And, for you on the call, you may be familiar with these types of scenarios. One of them being oversized workloads. So, when I talk about oversized workloads, typically, and I know Bob will talk about this in particular, when I talk about oversized workloads, what I'm really talking about is when we have customers that have on-premise environments, they are, specifically leveraging specific workloads on-premise. They seek to move those workloads into the cloud, and they move them without necessarily understanding the impact of those workload configurations in the cloud. There are nuances tied to how you configure workloads within Azure, AWS, and so forth. And if you're not tuned into what those configurations are, whether it's a specific way you've acquired that workload or the way you've configured that workload, you may end up spending more than you should be. And of course, I know Bob will go into that in detail in terms of what can you do to prevent that, but that is one source of wasted spend within the cloud. The other is what we would call idle consumption. And many of us find ourselves in this circumstance where, I'm an enterprise, I have a team in my group that is a development group, let's just put it that way, and they've initiated some form of application or project that they're working to develop. And as they're doing it, they achieve what they need to achieve and then walk away, unfortunately forgetting to terminate the application. As a result, there's consumption tied to that, and it's wasted spend. So, the analogy that we run into frequently is the idea of lights being turned on in a house, and then somebody walking out of that room and forgetting to turn off the lights, and then, of course, there's cost associated with that. And then finally, what we talk about is growth consumption. This is another scenario where you may have a team that is working its own effort, has propped up or provisioned something that allows the, Azure to be leveraged. And in the end, what goes on is that the person that's responsible for the bill is not tuned into that consumption. And as a result, when they do get the bill at the end of the day, they weren't familiar with that workload being consumed, and then they're over budget. And so frequently we find these 2 or 3 scenarios that are causing this very significant amount of wasted consumption that's out there. So, what we ask ourselves is, what are we really talking about? And we have a lot of customers that come to us understanding what those pain points are, and they say, hey, look, can you help us Insight identify where these workloads are coming from, help us understand how we can establish budgets tied to those workloads, how can we monitor those workloads, and specifically, how can we monitor those workloads against specific budgets, and then proactively pull them in so that, when that bill comes at the end of the month or the period, it's not a surprise and that we're within budget. So, as I go to, our solution, because, the good news here is, of course, we have a solution. We talk about Insight Cloud Care. And really, when I talk about InsightCloud Care, there are two facets to this. The first facet is how do I acquire Azure, and then how do I manage it moving forward? And InsightCloud Care is designed to help our customers do both. When I talk about acquiring Azure, many of you on this call may be familiar with the more traditional method that Microsoft has always put forward in terms of acquiring Azure, and that's through an enterprise agreement. Of course, there's other vehicles, other tools that Microsoft has always put forward, but many of you may be very familiar with the enterprise agreement, which in the past has been structured as part of an upfront process. So as a customer, you would, kind of look into a crystal ball, try and understand how much you may consume in Azure over a period of time, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and then work with Microsoft to get a discount to your Azure consumption based on that expected consumption. And of course, the challenge with that is that, A, your estimates may be off because, it's difficult to look in that crystal ball. But more importantly, and what's relative to today, is that you don't want to have to take that capital, that very precious capital, and, bring that forward, take it out of your, operating business and give it to Microsoft if you don't have to. Truth is that the cloud is a consumption mechanism, and we are all familiar with the fact that, as we use cloud capacity, we want to pay for what we use, not for what we expect to use or pay up front. So the notion of paying for a utility, that's really how we want to view how we pay for cloud consumption. So Microsoft pivoted, and they are now providing the ability for customers to pay for what they use, this consumption model, as opposed to paying for upfront. And they call that a CSP license. And so what we've done at Insight is we've been able to take that CSP licensing construct, offer it to our customers so our customers can now pay for what they use as opposed to paying upfront. And when they pay for what they use, we bundle in a number of support services that we're able to do because, truth be told, Insight has the substance and the strength in the relationship with Microsoft to be able to bundle in these support services, offer you Azure on a consumption model, and be price competitive. So you're going to get more through what we call the InsightCloud Care experience. So you get the consumption capability, but in addition to that consumption capability, you also get really three things here that are very important. The first is access to our cloud success management team. These are folks that work with you to help make sure that every month you are on track to consume exactly what you expect to consume, to help you identify any anomalies or overages and help pull those overages in based on best practices or based on configuration. Cloud Success Manager team also provides and helps you configure our technology so that you can very actively monitor and manage those workloads that you have within your Azure experience, your Azure tenant, so that you can keep track of them against budgets and proactively manage them and make sure that you're not going over budget. And when I talk about technology, of course, I'm talking about lots of different technologies that are both, part of our intellectual property as well as best-of-class technologies that we pull forward and invest in and provide to our customers so that you can take advantage of monitoring and managing that Azure experience. And then finally, we give you access to our 24/7 administrative technical support so that at any point if you need help configuring or administrating your Azure experience, you can take advantage of that. And again, all of that is included within the pricing that we provide to you through CSP in its Azure consumption experience. Really, that is what I want to underscore with this slide, and then I will be, I think, very much handing it over to Bob. But, again, you have an opportunity to acquire Azure from a lot of different sources, including Microsoft. What you get from Insight, particularly InsightCloud Care, is the ability to acquire in a consumption model, not paying upfront, paying for what you use, and as part of that price point, getting these bundled support services and access to monitoring technology, all for the same price that you would get from a competitor, including Microsoft, that would just be for Azure. So we believe it's a very competitive offering, and it is the start from a cloud economic perspective. But really, in truth, it's much more than how you acquire and how you monitor Azure or the public cloud. It's how you position yourself in the very beginning and what can you do moving forward from a practice perspective. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Bob. And Bob, I think you can control it from here, and then you can take the baton, I think.
Yeah, Elliot, I didn't see the slides move in my portal here, so we'll try it, but I don't know if I'm able to advance the slides or not.
Okay.
So,
I'm seeing. I saw you, but my screen saw you move. For what it's worth.
Okay. All right. Good. All right. Good enough. All right. Great. Hopefully, I have control here.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. Again, I'm Bob Agnew, and I'm going to walk you through kind of what our cloud economics practice is here at Insight. We work with Microsoft to help clients move to Azure, and we'll talk a little bit about that process here for the next handful of slides. What is cloud economics? Cloud economics is a bit of a buzzword in the industry nowadays and might mean many things to different people. But what we consider cloud economics is an engagement that helps clients understand what their Azure-ready workloads are, but not only identifying them, but also sizing them as well. As Elliot spoke about earlier, it's very important to understand what those workloads are, but making sure they're sized appropriately so you don't waste that spending moving to the cloud. So this is what a cloud economic engagement from a high level looks like, right? I talked about identification and I talked about sizing, but number two is also important, right? Cost modeling. You really want to understand what the cost will be moving to the cloud from where you are in the data center today. Does it make sense? Is it cheaper for you to run it in the cloud, or is it cheaper for you to run it in your data center? Understanding those licenses and cost impacts will allow you to make a good business decision regarding where you want to go in your future from a data center standpoint, right? The time commitment, it's about 2 to 4 weeks. It can go to 6 weeks depending on the complexity of your organization. If you're a global company with a lot of different data centers, it's probably a little bit closer to the 6 weeks time frame. Another question I get all the time is, how long do we need from a resource from my staff? And we like to say 1 hour to a week. Everything is done remotely, and somebody that has the proper admin right access is important, because if the tool can't see your information, we're going to have to troubleshoot that. We do leverage many different tools. Microsoft prefers the Movere tool. They actually was a third-party tool that they acquired about a year ago, and now they like to use that exclusively for their Microsoft-funded engagements, which we'll get into in a bit. Does size matter, right? Elliot touched on it, but Gartner says 30% of all cloud spend is wasted. Why is it wasted? And what we found by doing hundreds of these engagements is many customers in their data center are not using all their compute bandwidth that they have. So we found that many customers are using maybe 10 to 20% of that compute power that they currently have in the data center. So the customers that were early adopters that just picked up, did a lift and shift, and did the same configuration they have in the data center in the cloud are wasting money. And that's where a lot of the waste is going. So if you do a cloud economics engagement, you get properly sized, you understand the cost impacts to your business before moving, is really a key driver for clients to do a cloud economics engagement. The pro tip on the bottom is a good one. What we find is not only do clients consolidate by moving workloads to the cloud in their data center, but they also, when they understand the compute power that they really need or using, they can consolidate to even more and save on hardware costs on those workloads you want to keep on-prem in your data center. So already in Azure, right? We are in a very unique time with COVID-19. Many customers' business have been greatly impacted, and you've got these recurring costs in Azure right now. We're working with a lot of clients to understand what their consumptions are. The Azure pricing models and levels are changing what it feels like on a daily basis. So you may, what you were doing just 6 months ago, maybe a year ago, may be different now. And we want to, one, understand what you're doing and what may be price levels that you can save money on. So we work with clients to understand exactly where their consumption costs are and see if there are savings to that on a daily basis. So we work with you, we consult with you directly. We don't deploy a tool. We just actually pull up your latest invoice, talk to you about your different strategies, talk about your different pricing models, storage, et cetera, and see if there are some cost-saving benefits to you. Microsoft funding. So Microsoft does fund many of these cloud economic engagements, like I mentioned with the Mover tool earlier. What they will do is ask if you're serious about moving to the cloud and consuming in Azure. And then they'll also, want to engage with you to see what type of workloads that you would want to move. So many of these engagements are very low risk for our clients, as they are not funding them and can really gain a ton of insights regarding your Microsoft environment. So if you are interested in moving forward, let's have a discussion with my team to see if Microsoft funding is right for you. We are in Q4 right now. Obviously, they close their books at the end of June. So if funding has dried up, possibly this fiscal year, we're only about a month or two away from that being filled up back again and start ramping more and more cloud economic engagements. So let's have a discussion about it. If you are a smaller client and you have under 2,000 devices and you may not be managed by Microsoft on a daily basis, we do have an offering here at Insight at no cost. It's called the Enhanced Azure Envisioning Session, where we will deploy a tool, get you some great insights about your Microsoft infrastructure and your Azure-ready workloads, and in turn do an envisioning sessions to talk about where you want to go and with Azure and potentially a migration path. So I get a lot of questions about, we use AWS and we don't really use Azure. Is doing a Microsoft Cloud Economic Engagement make sense? It actually does, because Microsoft believes that their platform will run best in Azure. And sorry about the noise there. And they feel that funding these engagements will help clients really understand that Azure is that best platform. Again, it's no risk to you if Microsoft's funding it, so you might as well kind of do an engagement and really understand if there are cost benefits to moving to Azure. We find many clients are in a multi-cloud strategy nowadays, so looking at Azure as an option, even if you are an AWS shop, is doing the right thing so you can understand the different impacts. We also have an engagement for those clients that want to take a wide lens look at AWS, Azure, or Google, and we call it the 3 cloud strategy. And if you're looking to do that and want to pay for that type of engagement, we're happy to provide you those 3 different cost modeling in a cloud economic structure. Here's just a quick screenshot of the Mover tool, which I mentioned earlier. Again, it is owned by Microsoft. One of the things that it does very well is do what is called an ARC scan. That is the scan that sizes your compute power in your data center. That's probably the biggest benefit you can get. To do a quick story, Mover will go out and run a quick scan. It has Azure pricing built right into the tool. It will go on, identify your Azure-ready workloads. You can then obviously view them and then price those within minutes to see what the cost would be on a monthly basis. So that's done very quickly. We then do the ARC scan, which runs for usually a couple of weeks. We want to make sure that it gets the max usage or any consumption. If you have a spike in your data center, if you, third Thursday of every month you have a spike, we want to be able to capture that. We then get that data and then bring it back into the tool and then reprice it. And what we found is that price has probably dropped below 50% of that original cost. And the reason is we're sizing you for the cloud, not for how you're currently sized in the data center. And that can save clients a lot of money. It's a very forensic Microsoft tool. It will give you a ton of information about your Microsoft infrastructure and environment. How much SQL you have, what do you have out of date, do you have any security concerns? So there's a lot of value just outside of the cloud economic engagement that my team can walk you through once MoBear is installed and running. Azure cost findings. Here's a quick sample of some of the different options clients have when they're looking at Azure costs, right? There are a lot of different areas. A-Hub is really an SA benefit that you have if you're on a Microsoft EA, and you can use things like SQL not only on-prem but also in Azure. So you want to understand some of the differences with your compute and your storage and the different pricings and how that affects you. So here's a quick slide on what we present to clients, different options, so that you understand where your cost savings can be built in and the time commitments that you might want to consider. I just wanted to do a quick introduction to all the services that my team provides. We've obviously talked about cloud economic solutions here at length. We also do traditional software asset management consulting. So we do the Microsoft baselines and can help clients with renewals and true-ups during the year. And then we also work with clients on an ongoing basis in our managed service practice. So we work with them on a quarterly basis, making sure they're updated and they stay compliant with their Microsoft on-prem software. That's it. I wanted to thank you for your time today. We do have an alias at cloudeconomics@insight.com. If you're interested in any of these offerings you've seen today, would love to talk to you. We have a team that can work with you, can make sure Microsoft funding is nominated, and make sure you properly understand any of the process and answer any questions that you have. So appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Bob. So for the audience, there is a Q&A box you can input questions into. Right now we don't have any questions, but if you would like to ask a question of Bob or Elliot, please submit your question to the box. And while we wait for any questions to come in, Elliot, do you have any closing comments today?
No, just to mirror Bob's, last comments there. We appreciate the time that everybody's invested in the conversation here, and please let us know if we can help.
Awesome. Oh, thank you. And I don't see any questions in the Q&A box. But again, if you do have any questions, please, on the slide right there, you can see cloudeconomics@insight.com. Just email Bob, and he will reach out to you and answer any questions you have and see how our Cloud Economics team can help you with your move to the cloud. So we want to thank everybody for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you on next month's webinar. Thank you, and have a great day. And thank you, Bob, and thank you, Elliot.
Thank you, Blair.